Technology is the never-ending challenge when it comes to raising children, especially once they get into their mid to late teens. They own their devices, and you still want to have a say in what they're doing, when they're doing it, and even how they're doing it, especially when it's happening online. Today, what to do when your kids are pushing back against your involvement in their tech. Welcome to the Happy Families podcast, real parenting solutions every day on Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson, and every Tuesday on the pod, we answer your tricky questions about family, relationships, discipline, technology, well-being, the whole lot. If you'd like to submit a question, we've got a super simple system at happyfamilies.com.au. You just scroll down to podcasts, click the record button, and start talking. Or you can send us a voice note, podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au. Kylie, tough one today from Anna, who's got 4 kids, 17, 16 and 10. She says our kids are 17, 16 and 10, and the 17 and 16-year-olds refuse to let us have any access to their devices or take them off them at night because they paid for them, so, quote, they're ours, not yours. Any advice? They pay the monthly bills too. And a second question from Anonymous, should I temporarily confiscate my 15-year-old's phone for an e-safety issue? We've decided to lump these two together because they kind of go hand in hand. So, Kylie, I've got ideas, you've got ideas. We have, well, our eldest is 25, but I think if you add up the age of all of our kids, we've got like 100 years of parenting experience going on here because 6 kids. It adds up fast. You sounded tired just hearing me say that.
I don't know why.
All right. So I'm going to start, and I'd love to get your colour and your input around this. First thing I want to say is that it's great that your kids are mature enough and capable of paying for their own devices. Like in our home, we've generally said if you can't pay for it, then you can't have it when it comes to screens and devices. Once you've got the money to be able to pay the monthly fees, to be able to buy the phone, then you can have one. That's part of our delay strategy. But you can't start parenting around technology once your kids are 16. And also, you should expect that once the kids get to 16, 17, they're going to start to push back, particularly when they are paying. It is theirs. It's a developmental tension that they are naturally going to be saying, I'm looking for some independence here. I'm pushing for the opportunity to make my own decisions around this. And since I'm paying for it, the answer is no. So my number one response here is that as a parent, you're the one with a fully functional prefrontal cortex, hopefully. Your children usually aren't. And you are therefore the one who is still responsible for their health and safety. Devices at such a sensitive time in their lives can have an impact on the positive neural growth that we're all hoping for as their brains develop. So, Kylie, this is really a problem-solving challenge where you're dealing with some potentially really emotional adolescents who are trying to stake out their claim to independence and identity, and parents who are saying, but we care about you, we love you, we need to make sure you're safe, and we know better than you.
And so I guess this becomes the challenge. We want our children to have responsibility. And so the idea that they would have to save up, in our case, as a delay tactic, then provides another challenge for us because it's no longer ours.
It's ownership. Yeah, that's right.
They have ownership of it. And so the idea that you would then confiscate something that's not actually yours in the first place seems completely unfair to them. Whether or not that's right or wrong is not the point.
So I'm a really big opponent to the idea that we would confiscate anyway. To me, that doesn't seem valuable. It doesn't seem helpful. My sense is that force creates resistance. Rules without relationship, and this does undermine a relationship, will lead to rebellion. Problem solving, effective discipline, is not about stepping in as the parent and saying, well, I'm the one with the power, I'm the one with the prefrontal cortex, you'll do as I say. And it stops working somewhere in that 16 to 17 age bracket for a lot of kids anyway, if not most kids. So we need to move into, and this is the same for the parent with the 15-year-old who's had an e-safety issue, we need to move away from power-based techniques and tactics and step back and have a look at what our overarching strategy is. So strategy is, what's the goal and how are we trying to get there? And then the tactics are, what are the specific things that I'm going to do to implement the strategy? After the break, we're going to talk about strategy, understanding basic psychological needs, especially in hot emotional situations like this, and how we can have worthwhile, effective conversations that do move the needle. Okay, Kylie, nobody likes to be told what to do. As soon as you step in and say to a child, hand the phone over, they feel it's an affront to their autonomy. They resist, they rebel, they push against it. They say, you can't make me. It's mine. I'm paying for it. You have no rights, as you've correctly pointed out. So my simple solution, I don't know if anything's simple when it comes to parenting, especially kids at this age, but my simple solution is that we've got to have conversations that are focused on finding solutions, problem-solving conversations, and the central strategy that I promote is a needs-supportive strategy. I've been talking about it for 10 or 12 years. It's called the 3 E's of effective discipline. I've got a question for you. Did you know that I was going to end up at the 3 E's?
Yes. I was just wondering whether the vicious circle was going to come first.
Oh, I'd love to talk about it, but we're not going to have time for the vicious circle today. We're just going to focus on the 3 E's. So, explore, explain, empower. We've been through this countless times with our children. What do you think is the hardest part of explore?
Getting them to talk.
Okay, so you can sit down with the kids and say, all right, we just want to understand where you're at. And they sit there with their arms crossed across their chest, their chin in their chest as well. They're looking down and they just grunt. They won't involve themselves.
Well, this is, in their minds, this is a tricky conversation, right? Because they know exactly what it is you want out of this conversation. And they know that phones are at the heart of all the conflict. And it's their precious.
Yeah, that's right. Gollum, the wicked parents, they're taking away the precious.
And so they don't want to lose it. And they've already made up their mind how this conversation is going to go.
So I've got a couple of things that can help to frame and establish the conversation in a healthy, positive way that will encourage talking. First of all, I really encourage having treats, whether it's a chocolate milkshake or you want to pull out the food processor and make up something extra special like some homemade ice cream.
Did you say an apple or a banana?
No, I didn't. I said treats, the sort of stuff that the kids are going to be like, oh, this is so awesome. You've recently been making, and it's a super easy recipe from what I've seen, although I haven't made it myself. You've been getting some fresh fruit, like some fresh berries or some fresh watermelon, and chucking in a bit of ice and some sugar and creating some sorbet. And the kids are going crazy for it. So if you're willing to put 5 or 10 minutes of effort in the kitchen, you create the sorbet or the homemade ice cream with the food processor, and then you sit down and say, hey, let's have a chat while you taste this amazing sorbet or whatever other treat you've decided to cook up for the kids. It softens the mood straight away. They've got food in their belly. It's a little bit sugary. It's a little bit sweet. They feel a bit more connected to you because you've given them something nice. There's that willingness to reciprocate just a bit. And I believe that if we're going to explore effectively, the best thing we can do is just state the obvious in an opening statement. I want to talk to you about screens. I feel like we've been having a lot of conflict about it lately. And Kylie, you said it as well. The kids feel like there's a predetermined outcome that you're going to manipulate them into arriving at. So I think it's really important to say to the kids, I'm not quite sure where this conversation will land. We've both got really strong ideas, and I actually want to make sure that we understand each other because I don't think either of us have got the right solution alone. I think we've got to develop this together. So you're feeding them, you're saying there's a problem, and then you're saying we've got to collaborate because we're just at each other and it doesn't feel good. That changes the tenor of the conversation, which means that when you say, so why don't you tell me what's going on with screens generally and what's working and what's not? And you just explore. You explore. And at the end of listening, the most important thing I think you do is you summarize it. You say, right, so here's what I'm hearing you say. You're saying blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And the kids don't look at you and go,
no, you're saying blah, 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 blah.
That's right. The kids don't look at you and go, oh, this is such a technique, like seriously, stop it. The kids hear you say that and they go, yeah. Or, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. And then you get the opportunity to say, well, I completely misheard then. So what are you actually saying? The explore phase is the longest part of this conversation. But once the children know that you're really listening, that you're summarizing, you're not adding to it, you're not starting to go off on your own tangents, you're not rebutting them, you're just listening and summarizing, the kids go, oh, Oh, yeah, okay. And then when they finally said, yes, that's exactly it, you look at them and say, okay, now that I've got it, is there anything else? And by asking that question, they know that you're sincerely listening. You're not trying to get to your solution. Once you've done that, you can explain by saying, so I'm a bit worried about this thing, and this thing. I reckon you want to get it done in 10 to 20 seconds when you explain. So you might say, I'm worried about sleep. I'm worried about relationships. I'm worried about keeping you safe online, especially with devices in your bedroom. How do you feel about those things? And as they start to say, oh, yeah, blah, 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 you just listen and you say, oh, so what you're saying is this, or what you're saying is that. So you summarize again. Once they're absolutely convinced that you're hearing them and you're not trying to find a solution, that's when you say, let me empower you. What solutions do you recommend? Now, every now and again, they'll say, oh, I should just be allowed to do whatever I want. It's my phone. You can say, well, it's my house. and I get where you're coming from. You do really want to just make your own decisions, but that doesn't work for me and it's not working for our family. So can we come up with something else that we can both feel good about? The objective here is to problem solve. Sometimes you'll say, you know what, we're not going to get a solution today. We're getting a bit hot under the collar. Maybe we should come back again tomorrow or the day after and we'll try again. But you're moving towards solutions that are collaborative.
What I love about this process is when the kids realize that we're actually wanting to work together with them.
We're listening, yeah.
And there is every time we go from this real reluctancy to be engaged and to actually cooperate to an active participant within a conversation of collaboration to come up with an agreed upon outcome that works for both people. And in every case, pretty much every single time, it requires a level of give and take.
Yeah, there's got to be
sides.
Parents have got to be humble about this.
On both sides. And when the kids recognize and see that you're willing to give something in return, they don't become putty in your hands, but they become so much more willing to be a part of this process. And the difference between that and the punitive efforts that we... Yeah,
the adversarial approach.
...would generally speaking lead to or lean against, just there's no comparison.
What we're really trying to do is just get on the same page in terms of concerns. Once the kids know that you've heard them, and you can even say, are you seeing any differences in yourself, in your siblings? Like, what's working here and what's not working? If you had to say that something wasn't working, what would it be? And once they say, yeah, I'm probably going to bed too late, you can say, bingo, I feel exactly the same way. So let's just find some solutions here. We don't have to solve all the problems in the world. The one thing that I will promise is that when it comes to kids and screens, this is going to be a perennial problem. Like, it will come back again in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It's a constant. It's in our home. It's been a never-ending challenge. If I could go back, I would just have not given our kids screens for a much longer period of time. I just think they get access to them too early and it creates too many problems. So for both our mum of 4, Anna, and for our anonymous parent who has a 15-year-old who had an e-safety issue, the answer is the same. It's the 3 E's of effective discipline. Explore, explain, empower, lots of empathy. And I think that over time, you'll find some really helpful solutions there.
If you've never gone through this process with your teenager, don't be surprised if it completely backfires.
Good point.
On the first or second go.
Yeah, it takes practice.
It does take practice, and it's going to take time for your teen to trust that you have their best interest at heart. So if it doesn't work the first time, don't give up. Don't give up.
So like learning Espanol, like it takes a lot of lessons before you really dial it in and start to get it right.
But your desire to continue to show up and work with your teenager will pay off.
If you would like to submit a tricky question, we answer those tricky questions every Tuesday on the podcast. Email us a voice note, podcasts, that's podcasts with an S, at happyfamilies.com.au, or go to happyfamilies.com.au, scroll down to the podcast section, click the record button and start talking. We love your questions. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. For more information and resources to make your family happier, check us out at happyfamilies.com.au.